Hello, everyone. My name is Lily, and this is English One to One. Today's podcast or video is going to be about accents. Why am I making this video is because there is a lot of controversy around the topic, with people stating that having an accent means that you do not speak English correctly, and that could be more wrong. Because let's start by the fact that even native speakers have an accent, all right? Like, for example, if we go to Canada, we go to South Africa, and not even going that far from the US or the British territory, just within the same country and in America, there are so many different accents. Like if you go to the south, like if you go to the center or the north of the country, of course you're gonna find different accents within the same country and from city to city. So saying that people who have an accent do not speak well or criticizing them is just stupid. That's as simple as that. Well, let's give a little bit of information and or why my a lot of people have this misconception is because, of course, American English and British English are taken as a norm or as a reference when you study English or you study how to pronounce things in English, right? But the accent itself represents where you come from, right? It represents your culture, it represents your heritage. So there is nothing better than actually people understanding and realizing where do you come from. So definitely having an accent is showing the most genuine self that you can show to people, right? Now, at the same time, it also shows that you speak more than one language. Of course, if you have an accent means that you took the time and you took the effort to to learn a new language, in this case English, because of course nowadays it's considered the global language, right? And well, that tells you a lot as well, right? If you're saying that something is global, once again, it means that it's not owned by anyone, right? So I will I will say just stop being a linguistic bias, all right? Which means criticizing and judging and putting others down just because they have an accent. Now, people, rather than focusing on trying to put people down because of their accent, they should just worry about improving their own skills and just focusing on clarity. Okay, so when we learn a new language, what is important is to get your message across, which means that the other person understand what you're trying to say. People are not gonna judge you because you have an accent, right? What you need to do is to be clear when you speak, and that will be all. Then, of course, nowadays, if and this is actually a fact, there are 200 million native speakers, which means people that were born in the country, all right, and they speak English as a native language. Whereas there are 2 billion people who are non native speakers, who we are non native speakers, all right? So look at that comparison 400 million people, all right, as native speakers, and 2 billion people as non native speakers. So the chances that you have that you're going to come across a native speaker in like the real world, it's much, much less than when you will come across to a non-native speaker, right? So once again, focus on being clear when you try to get your message across instead of trying to get rid of your accent. I've seen a lot of YouTubers or influencers or teachers trying so hard to do that. Don't take me wrong. I don't think it's bad, all right, but it just takes too much effort and energy to try to do that just because you wanna fit, all right, on in that native world. But well, if you have the time and you have the chance to do it and you want to spend that energy, well, go ahead, do it. Nobody's going to stop you. But if you're just trying to do to sound like them because you want to fit in that world, well, I will tell you, you're just wasting time instead of once again improving your skills and just trying to get your message across in a clear way. Right now, to give you an example about myself, I have worked and lived in different continents around the world, and I have dealt with colleagues and clients from all over the world. And believe me, English was never a problem except for very small situations. Okay, actually, very few situations when someone didn't want to speak to me because I had an accent. Of course, I did come across one of these bias, linguistic bias, right? And I was working on a cruise ship, as a lot of you know. I used to work in a cruise line, is selling tours. So there was a person who came to the desk to ask for information, I believe, about the tours. So the moment that I said, "Hello, how can I help you?" he automatically understood that English is not my first language, right? So from the very first moment, he said, can I speak to someone who speaks English? And I said, well, I'm speaking in English to you right now, and I'm that person who can help you. And he's like, no, you can't help me. And I had two older colleagues right beside me. One was from China and the other one was from Canada. My Canadian colleague, she of course stood up and she said, "Sir, sorry, but yes, my colleague can help you. She does speak English." He automatically understood that she's a native speaker, and she said, "Okay, so you can help me." Right? To just make the long story short, at the end, well, I also didn't really want to deal with such a person, so my colleague ended up dealing with him. But the this was, I think, how long have I been speaking English? I think I've been speaking English as a second language for around 20 years, and this was like the second situation where I had to face this very annoying type of people. All right. But generally speaking, I don't know. I would say maximum 5% of the time that I work and I live or I deal with people in English, only 5% was with native speakers, and most of the time we're like, I don't know, teachers that I work with when I was working in China, they were from Great Britain, and of course on the ship, I don't know, of course on the ship the people come from all over the world, and yes, there are more native speakers, but once again, on my day by day, uh, the people I used to speak to most of the time, they will be non-native speakers. And well, just another very quick example of how accent doesn't really make a difference when you communicate is that this same colleague that was from China, uh, she spoke English beautifully, and I believe she still speaks like that, right? But there was a time when there was a group of Chinese people who came on board, and of course, they didn't speak a word in English. And she was the one helping them. There was my other colleague who is a native speaker. She was just like stunned looking at her while she was speaking in Chinese to other people. And then she turned and she told me, I like Catherine, she speaks English so well that I even forgot that her native language is Chinese. But Catherine, my Chinese colleague, she did have an accent, which was a Chinese accent. So once again, look, a native speaking, sorry, saying that someone who she works with, she doesn't even realize that her native language is a different one, because when my Chinese colleague was speaking to her, she was just speaking clearly and she was getting her message across, all right, without thinking what is my accent or what is her accent, all right. So I came to the point to to a realization that people who judge others the most are actually non-native speakers. So come on, people, we are all in the same boat, and we should be supporting each other instead of just criticizing and judging each other. All right, and I don't know. In my opinion, there are two different kind of people: non-native speakers who criticize other people because of their accent. The first group is the group of people that actually are still in the process of learning, and they truly believe that for you to be a, a great speaker or for you to have a great level of English, means that you have to sound like a native speaker. So they judge and they're like, no, come on, you don't speak proper English, you have a very strong accent, I can't understand. Well, they probably can't even understand everything in English. It doesn't matter the accent or not, right? And the second group of people is actually the total opposite. And this is a group of people who actually nail already or ace that level, which means they have a advanced C1, C2 level. They already work in companies abroad or international companies, and they believe that they are so good or so great that not many people can come to this level, of course. And if you're speaking in English and you speak with an accent, come on, you will never reach the level where I am. I don't think you have a terrible accent, and they will just try to put you down. So look at that. Two very opposite type of people criticizing exactly the same thing, not realizing that at the end we are all on the same boat and we are all non-native speakers. So if you are a non-native speaker and you truly believe that you don't have an accent, let me tell you, you do have an accent. Okay, we all have it, and there is nothing wrong about it. Now, what is important aside clarity, which I mentioned before, it's also being cultural aware. What does that mean? The reason why a lot of people learn or study English, it's because they want to work abroad or in an international company, they want to study abroad, or they simply want to travel and maybe get to know more people because they can communicate with them in English, right? But it's very important that we are culture aware, which means that you get to know the background of the people that you are speaking to, right? Let's do not make this mistake of just mm, thinking or assuming that someone will understand you from your own perspective or from your own background. So when you're speaking, for example, to a Chinese person, and I say this because I live in China, just try to speak mm, without any implicit meaning. All right, it's a person from China, and then if you start using idioms that you learn from the USA that Americans use very commonly or British use very commonly, maybe this person is not gonna get your message, right? So just try to be again as clear as you can be, and uh, do not do not pass any implicit message in that conversation, right? So instead of um, just trying to be perfect and learn thousands of idioms, unless you're gonna go and live in the USA or Great Britain, then well, cool. You are actually being cultural aware, and you're trying to use all these idioms that they use in their day by day, then very good, right? But if it's not the native speaker, then well, just try to be simple, right? And try to make yourself understand, because helping each other is going to help us to overcome and connect with more people and understand more people rather than creating more and more differences. A lot of people, it's going to be afraid, it's going to be scared because you are putting them down. And I heard this in a TED talk a few days ago when the speaker said, you're trying to take someone's voice away. What if that person actually have really great ideas and want to speak up, but that person is actually scared of people like those judging the accents, and is just gonna be silent. So instead of encouraging people to speak, we're actually doing the opposite. We live in a world that is horrible enough, right, to think and to judge people for such a silly thing, such as an accent. So please just try to be understanding, try to be helpful, and just encourage people instead of taking their voices away. All right. So there it is. Thank you for coming together with me today. And well, You are free to obviously judge my accent, but I hope I made myself understood, even though probably I sometimes, of course, I also make mistakes. Why not? We all are allowed to make mistakes as well. All right, so thank you. I'll see you the next time.